Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and I lost 70 pounds on a GLP-1 and I've been off of the shot for 18 months. On the last episode, I explained how I got from 120 in my 20s to the biggest, heaviest weight of 186 in my 40s. So now I want to talk about my actual experience on the shot and how it became a very big part of my weight loss journey and one of the tools that I really needed at that time. It was in September of 2022, and at that time I had already lost 44 pounds. I had already lost 4 pounds. Running was still a big part of my life throughout my 30s and into my 40s. It was not so much for weight loss because I couldn't lose weight without changing my habits in eating. So, but it was a big stress reliever for me, and I really just enjoyed the way it made me feel to do it. So I went on to do like 25K, half marathons, 10Ks, 15Ks, and then some 5Ks with my kids. And so running just still stayed a big part of my life throughout the years. But here we are. I am at 184 pounds, still trying to lose weight by my mini goal birthday. I was always trying to hit a certain number on my birthday, so there I was in September trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I did lose 4 pounds on my own, which is not much, but it was a start. At this time, my mentality of losing weight was a little bit different. It was more in the sense of wanting to lose it long term. So keto was not part of this of my diet this time. It was just something I knew was fast, but it wasn't going to get me where I needed to be permanently. One day I go into the office and my coworker starts to tell me about some social media stuff, which was TikTok, that she saw people taking a shot and they were losing all this weight. Now, granted, my coworker and I, we were always the ones doing the fad diets together. She would tell me about one, I would tell her about one, and there we would go trying to start these fad diets and lose a bunch of weight really quick. That was always our main goal, is to just lose it quick for this little mini goal that we had, right? It was even funny that we laugh about it now that every February, March, we would look up Halloween costumes to see what sexy costume that we can print out so we can be motivated and be able to wear this like sexy Halloween costume, and then could be like Winnie the Pooh or something. We laugh about it because we just assumed that printing a picture of this hot girl in a sexy bikini would motivate us, right? And it just never did. We tried the phentermine together and some skinny tea. I mean, we did it all. So who better to come to but me, right? When she's wanting to do this thing that she's seeing on TikTok. And of course, I was already there. She knew I was already trying to find the next thing to do for my December, weight loss. And this time she was like, no, people are losing it. They're actually keeping it off, and it's good. You go to this telehealth people, they'll tell you where to download this coupon. And sure, lo and behold, you get this shot and you take it every week. So there I was, okay, let's do it. I go through whatever it is that I have to go through. And I start taking the shot the last week of September in 2022. So when I get on the shot, my goal weight was 149. At that point in time, I was like, I will be just happy with 149. If I can get there, I will be good. And I do notice a lot of influencers starting their journey do say that, like, because of our age, or some reason we set our goals small, which is good. I mean, because you're setting something that's realistic to you. So that's what I did. To me, 149 was realistic to me. I had already hit it in my mid 40s. I think I showed a picture of that um, in the last episode of this series, and it was doable. I liked the way I looked in the picture. I was like, yeah, 149 is going to be great for me. So that's the goal that I set. And so I get on this shot, and I immediately start to feel like I can't eat all my food. I'm like, yes, finally there's something that's going to work. I continue to take it, and I do not change the way I eat. I'm just eating less. I get full fast, and I start looking at the scale and getting on it every day. Now, the scale did make me crazy, but I think it was a great tool for me to learn how to be okay with it, to make it my friend, because it was my enemy for so long. There were times that I would get on diets and I would cheat on the diet, so wait a whole week to get on it because I was going to try to lose it really quick so that when I got on it, it would show I didn't gain, but then it would. So it was my enemy, and learning to get on it every day kind of helped me control, helped me to not control, but it helped me to be okay with what it said. It allowed me to make it more of a tool and a friend gradually throughout being on the shot. And right away, the first thing that I noticed was, the craving noise. Now, I know a lot of people say it's food noise, and I know even junk food is food, and we shouldn't, now I understand that all things can be eaten in moderation, but but sweets was my go-to. Like when I told y'all that I was on Weight Watchers and how it worked for me, there were times that I would use my dinner points on a donut and then eat less of that food, and I was still losing weight, and loved the fact that I could eat that, still eat those things. Sweets was just my thing. So those were the things. The noise that I would hear was for the sweets. It wasn't for broccoli. It wasn't for a burger. It was for sweets, for cakes, for donuts, for, things so that's why I say it's craving noise. Things that I would crave for and knew I had no self-control with, knew that I could not eat in moderation. Those were the things that were silenced to me. The food, I would see it and still want it. It was just the craving side of the noise was gone. And that happened immediately. So we would have like birthdays and stuff like that, and I could look at cake and be like, it's okay. But I would still go to dinner and want the enchiladas and all of the bad choices at the restaurants. But I was just eating less of it, so I was still losing weight. And the only thing that I was doing my jogs and stuff. I wasn't doing any runs or anything like that, or training runs or anything. It was just eating less of the wrong foods, or of not the best foods, because they weren't wrong. They were just not the best for what my goals were. At that time when I started, the only side effects I had were constipation. That was the only thing that really bothered me. I didn't have nausea or any of that stuff, but when I was constipated, I would do Miralax or something, a diuretic or something to make me use the restroom, and I was good. So it wasn't a constipation where I was like so bloated or full. It was just like I knew that I had eaten and I needed to get that out. Yes, I bloated, but it just something that I could manage. I was like, it's okay. I'm losing weight. The scale is going down. I'm good with that. I can take Miralax every day if I have to. So that really didn't bother me so much. Now in December, by December, I had already gotten to about 165, and I have a picture on my birthday for that year. And there was one time I had a birthday celebration at my house, and my husband was doing the bartending. We had mojitos, Bloody Marys, and mimosas. Those were the three drinks. It was like a brunch style dinner, um, lunch style birthday celebration. And when I started to drink the the mixed drinks that he was making, they just started to taste really bad to me. Like, I was like, oh, this doesn't taste right. And everybody's like, oh, what are you talking about? This is the best. Like, and in my head, I'm like, I think this is the shot. And at that point in time, I'm like, if it helps you kick cravings or addictions, does that mean I'm an alcoholic? Because now I can't drink this alcohol, right? So I left that to myself, and next thing you know, that part, it just kind of went away. I was still, in a few weeks, I tried another drink, and it was good. So I don't know what that was about, but I really do feel like that was part of the shot working, like trying to get me to wean off of that. But I didn't. I still was able to drink. I just didn't do it as much. Like I said in the other video, I was already changing things so that I could be on my weight loss when I had already lost the 4 pounds by eliminating like calorie drinks, and like the alcohol I would drink would be like vodka with mineral water and some meal in it or stuff like that. So I did start to make changes, but it wasn't 100%. Well, by December, the shot Manjaro became more popular. That was the shot that I was on that had the coupon. I'm sure y'all have heard of it or know of it. But at that time, we could get it, and we qualified for it under the print on the coupon. Well, Manjaro, they caught on, and they changed the verbiage of the coupon, and my coupon was going to expire in December, and I was not going to be able to get the new one because it was a whole different setup in which I wouldn't qualify for it. So, being proactive, I went to the telehealth people, and they were like, we're fine, we can get you the compound. And from January on, or February, maybe February, I did use the compound version, which is the trizepatide. Now, what I did, because I found out early on, like at around October, like right after I printed it, they started changing everything. And so I did get lucky in that. But what I did find out was that my pharmacy would give me would fill the prescription at 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks I was filling it so that I could have that one extra shot. And so I think it lasted up until February, until I had to get the new, the compound version. During my time on the medicine, everybody was just titrating up every 4 weeks. And even my doctor would like, okay, it's 4 weeks, and move me up. So I did get to the max dose of 15 milligrams. And I don't even think I should have. Like, I was still losing weight at 5 and 7.5 and all these. I was still losing, but I was just going with the flow, like every 4 weeks doing it. And I'm here to tell y'all that is a big mistake, because it took longer to titrate off of it doing that. January, I started to hit plateaus, and still no other side effects, still losing weight, and then I just ended up starting to slow down and really not losing anything. It took me 9 months to lose the 70 pounds, so it wasn't always great. It was, there were plateaus in there. And of course, me being a scale person at the time and looking at it every day, I was like, nope. And it probably wasn't even a plateau, because it didn't even last like 3 or 4 days, and I was already like going crazy, right? I needed it to keep titrating down the scale. And so I started to look on YouTube. Now, this was around the time that I actually started to look and see what everybody else was doing. When my friend introduced me to this, I didn't go and look at what she was looking at. I was just like, I trusted her, and that's good that I did. I'm good with that. But I didn't do my own research. And I know that I should have, and I know it was bad, but I didn't. It was working for celebrities. Of course, we're hiding it at the time, but it was working for people. And so it was working for me, and I didn't feel there was a need to go and find out what else about it. It was working. But when I hit the plateau, I was like, well, what is everybody doing for plateaus? What's going on? And there wasn't very many people talking about it, because you were getting a bad name if you were on it for weight loss. It was at the time that you were using diabetic medicine and you were keeping it from other people, and so a lot of people were just in secrecy about it. But there were a few doctors and other people that were talking about it. And I came across a doctor that said fasting is great while you're on the shot. She was explaining how when you're on the shot and you eat less, you're snacking every 2 or 3 hours to get food in, when you can just fast for 16 to 18 hours and get a whole meal in, which made sense to me. So I started to do fasting. And then I saw the benefits of autophagy and skin elasticity and cells and all these other things. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start fasting. And it was so hard, like to, now you're kind of thinking that about the food when you're fasting. And so I was like, okay, let me look up some other things. And I came across a guy called the Snake Man Diet, or the Snake Food Diet, or something like that. Rob something. I don't even remember his name anymore, but he was like a lifesaver to me, because he would talk so mean to me. I felt like he was talking to me every time. Even my coworker and my friends were like, why are you how do you like this man? He would be calling us fatty, like, hey, fatty, stop eating, you don't need to eat. You got all this fat on you to survive. And he was just horrible. And I don't know if any of y'all know about him. He had so many followers. And I would look at it, listen to him, and be like, he's right. Like, I don't need to eat. I'm fat. Like, I would just be like, yes, he's right. There was one time he even said, this is how you lose weight. You get a plate and you put nothing on it and you eat nothing because you're fat ass. Like, he was just horrible. And I was like, yes, that's my motivation. He's right. And so he helped me go through my fast. And that's when I learned about like electrolytes, because I would get the headaches. And so pretty much I did fasting to kind of help me with my plateaus. And I think the longest fasting I did was like 3 days, but it was working, and I was still feeling those pumps of energy throughout the day. And I was like, this is so weird that I have all this energy and I'm not eating food. And of course, still taking the shot once a week. Anyway, as I said, I did only have that one side effect, and I was still kind of still drinking here and there, not as much, but still doing it, and still not eating the right choice of foods. Sweets was not an issue anymore, but it was still that I was eating, I wasn't eating what I should have been eating for my body. Well, in doing it that way, I come to my second side effect, which was in around February, and that was hair loss. I would get into the shower and just clumps of hair would just come out, and I was so worried because I had long hair at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna like be bald. Like, oh my God, it was like a reality check. It was a breakthrough. It brought me back to like it being here for my grandkids, and like what my mentality was starting to shift. It was like, okay, I need to do something about hair loss, and I need to figure out how to eat better. And seeing influencers talking about it, it was lack of protein, lack of protein. That's what I started to hear. I was even hearing about the Ozempic phase, and I was like, well, I'm gonna end up getting that too. And looking at like the things that everybody was saying were bad, because just the way we were eating was not right. And that really scared me, and I started to look at, okay, so I need to get more protein in. And that's when I started to look and see that, okay, well, I know every time I eat, I'm going to eat meat first, because then I would get, if I get full, that's what I've eaten. So I started to change that, and I also, that's when I started to bring supplements in. I brought in creatine even though I wasn't working out. I just heard that it was good for the brain fog and energy and stuff like that. And I brought in a BCAAs. Yeah, BCAAs. I brought those in, which were for muscle preservation. Now, I know a lot of people don't talk about taking that supplement for being on a GLP-1, but do your research. It does help with muscle preservation, and maybe that's what helped me a little bit. I don't know. And it did give me that little bit more of an appetite control and just more energy. So, I mean, do your research on that and see if you are still on a GLP-1, the benefits of BCAAs, because I took that. I took creatine, that, and I took collagen. I would put collagen in my coffee. And I started to take those things for the skin elasticity. And of course, I was fasting to help with that as well. Now, early on in my diet, I did have, remember, my elliptical machine. I still had that upstairs, and just this little weight set. And I did go up there maybe 2 or 3 times trying to do things on my own, but everything hurt. I was 180 plus pounds, and I have a picture of me trying to start out, and I'll put it here. But that's where I was, it was just not working for me. But in May, I said, well, maybe I just need to go to the gym, like to get out of the house. Maybe because it's just upstairs and I get lazy and I just don't want to go. So I did get a membership in May, and I started to go, and found there were benefits of the sauna, and I would get in that. But I wasn't really pushing myself. I would go just do these little machines, probably with the lightest weight I could. Something was better than nothing. So I did try, I did attempt to start working out, and or in that sense, and I did start to bring in my protein, and I could see that my hair was starting to come back, but very slowly, and some was still falling out. So I knew that that part was not over, but I would just worry so much that all my hair was just going to fall out and I was going to be bald. But I was even changed my shampoo and tree oil and stuff like that. And I could see the hair growth coming back. So then I started to be a little bit better about that. And of course, trying to get more protein in than I was used to in every meal. And probably at around May, I was already maybe 120 or so. The sad thing is that I didn't take a lot of pictures. I didn't start doing that until I actually got with a trainer later on. But at this point in time, I took a before picture, and then some pictures for when I was trying to do that air sculpt, because I had to do it with the two-piece. But other than that, I just really didn't take them, except the ones that I'm showing you here. And I wish I would have. So that's one thing, that I tell you, please take pictures, because sometimes the scale's not going to move and you're not going to be able to see your progression. And your mind plays tricks on you. Your mind makes you feel like you're still 180, because it's the scales, you're dropping it so fast that you're like, well, maybe not everybody drops it so fast, but your brain just doesn't keep up. Your brain is still thinking that your body looks the same. So we are our own worst critic. Everybody around you is like, oh my God, you look good, you're losing weight. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, look what I see in the mirror. Like, they couldn't see what I saw. So sometimes pictures can help with that when the scale's not moving, and measurements can help with that. And I really didn't collect information every month, so I can't really tell you exact dates that I got where I was, but I just knew it. I was losing it, and I know my final weight, at my end goal weight. But anyway, going back to that, I did start working out and trying to eat better, and I could see that my hair was growing back. I really think that March through May was when I had more of a mental change. Like, I realized that if I didn't help myself, this tool was not the miracle. It wasn't the easy way. It was just a way to assist me. But I had to do the legwork. And then I started to hear how they were saying you have to be on it forever. As a matter of fact, there was a coworker of mine that we all ended up going into. They came into my room, my two coworkers, and they were talking about how I had looked like I had lost a lot of weight already. And he was like, yeah, sure, it does work, but you're going to have to be on it forever. And I just looked at him and I was like, will I have to be on it forever? Will I have to deal with hair loss? Will I have to deal with constipation? Will I have to deal with the after effect? It hit home. And I've told y'all that, like, mentally I can be really strong sometimes, like, just man up and do it. So him telling me that was like the best thing that I could ever hear, because now I was challenged. And from then on, I started to look. That's what made me go upstairs to my little gym, and that's what made me decide to get the gym membership. Yes, I was not doing it correctly, but I was still trying to show up for myself, because now I was on a mission to hit my goal and get off this shot. And in June of 2023, I hit the goal of 111 pounds. I was 182.6 and I got down to 111 pounds, and it felt great to get to that when I just thought I was going to be at 149. But I just kept going. I just kept making small changes. The shot was the spark, and then it ignited me to move my ass and do my part. And even though at this point in time I wasn't where I am today, I felt successful at getting where I wanted to be. There was even a point when I would tell everybody, well, I have big boobs, so I'm always going to wear a size large shirt, But to come to find out, it wasn't even my boobs, it was my big old back, And I started to wear a size 6, and I started to wear a small in shirts, and I was like, how embarrassing, me thinking that it was just my big boob job, And it was on me. It was all being bigger. So just never say never, I guess, because then I went on to achieve even bigger goals. I could do something different in that. It would have probably been to start getting active sooner and start eating better sooner. And use the scale, like, to monitor tracking what I ate, what the food was doing, by tracking it and getting on the scale every morning. And I know it's not for everyone, but I think that would have worked for me. And it if I would have done it sooner, I wouldn't have probably had the hair loss, or I wouldn't have felt so depleted, because even at 111 pounds, I didn't like what I saw just yet. I knew that I was not done. The next challenge was getting off the meds and trying to love my body the way it was, because I still didn't. Even at 111 pounds, I did not love my body just yet. There was skin. There was titrating off this medicine. And now I needed to focus on that challenge. And even though I thought at that time it was to prove something to my coworker, it was still something that was going to make me mentally stronger. Not only was I going to prove to him that I could get off the shot, I had to prove it to myself. I had to prove it to myself. And you know what? This is where determination met discipline. Because now I was going to have to deal with cravings coming back, pounds coming back, and facing those fears of being 180 pounds again. So I will see y'all in the next video explaining to you how I got off the shot. Thank you for watching.